Holy shit, chat. I just went through an entire season of The Mandalorian, the first one. I gave it another chance after stopping for a few years, but it was very good. It's very action focused later.
If a bullet could not languish and conquer. Hither equals over there, to or toward this place. Thither equals over there, opposite place of hither. Thus equals as a result or consequence of this. Seth equals said. Enterth equals enter. ACHH we equals Scottish. In it equals isn't it. Aqueduct that transports fresh salmon or fish down, they get sucked in down, and a cannon that shoot it right into restaurants. Rose on corpse, don't cry for me, I'm already dead. Woolly penguin burning acidic ice. Silver unit offense. Chapter 1.
That was just some stuff I wrote down. I didn't think it would show up here. It did synchronize them. Anyway, it's supposed to start with chapter 1.
Chapter 1. British Nerd Fight Club. Historian bodybuilder James had a beautiful black body, shining as the deepest onyx, the night without the stars and constellations, abyss without an answer. Black elephants with a black sun on a canvas of terrible reflection. Black as the minds of usurpers, dissolutional and secret spite insane. Black as painted black Vanta black. Well, actually maybe there were hues of grey and crispy. Being 2.2 meters tall and 170 kilos of muscle gave him gigantic legs and in extension shins also, because after reasonable tall lengths, it's only the legs that grow, but he didn't look like a frog, for example. He had the endurance and ease for exaggerated unfair physical work, but he was an abstract reserved thinker, contemporary and true. Rectangular glasses without frames looked teachy with his brown autumn coat. In contemporary London were allowed and audacious. Contemporary designer umbrella, black and white striped tailor-made suit. He had a short feminist-looking haircut. He colored white and had DEATH tattooed into his left knuckles and then again in WHITE on his medieval armor. He was a very muscular V-shaped gym human with 2 meters between shoulders and arms like trees. Chiseled manly face in the Chad direction, square buttocks, striated upper legs like an anatomy chart, disproportional 3D delts. Handsome everything thus, something to make the world's strongest men jealous. Having below 10% body fat can make you feel fatigue and brain fog, but James compensated by thinking he looked good. Looking into his mirror that didn't show enough of the body at any angle, he found green eyes that looked blank first then intelligent. A specimen, could make you think about an INTJ like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and fell down the stairs like he wasn't wearing a shirt. He had taught history in London now for 3 years. He remembered having a genius lazy brain about
Let's spell his name right. All right.
Historian bodybuilder James had a beautiful
Let's into multi-stream chat only. Just joined. We can start over after the page.
Historian bodybuilder James
This is important.
Historian bodybuilder James had a beautiful black body, shining as the deepest onyx, the night without the stars and constellations, abyss without an answer. Black elephants with a black sun on a canvas of terrible reflection. Black as the minds of usurpers, dissolutional and secret spite insane. Black as painted black Vanta black. Well, actually maybe there were hues of grey and crispy. Being 2.2 meters tall and 170 kilos of muscle gave him gigantic legs and in extension shins also, because after reasonable tall lengths, it's only the legs that grow, but he didn't look like a frog, for example. He had the endurance and ease for exaggerated unfair physical work, but he was an abstract reserved thinker, contemporary and true. Rectangular glasses without frames looked teachy with his brown autumn coat. In contemporary London were loud and audacious. Contemporary designer umbrella, black and white striped tailor-made suit. He had a short feminist-looking haircut. He coloured white and had DEATH tattooed into his left knuckles and then again in WHITE on his medieval armour. He was a very muscular V-shaped gym human with 2 meters between shoulders and arms like trees. Chiseled manly face in the Chad direction, square buttocks, striated upper legs like an anatomy chart, disproportional 3D delts. Handsome everything thus, something to make the world's strongest men jealous. Having below 10% body fat can make you feel fatigue and brain fog, but James compensated by thinking he looked good. Looking into his mirror that didn't show enough of the body at any angle, he found green eyes that looked blank first then intelligent. A specimen, could make you think about an INTJ like Arnold Schwarzenegger and fell down the stairs like he wasn't wearing a shirt. He had taught history in London now for 3 years. He remembered having a genius lazy brain about his future until he was attracted by leisurely university history teaching with Greek philosophy. Nothing was going to change, was it? What was unusual with this backbone linebacker build or combination wasn't endurance or speed, but the clever mind indeed, speaking and being a thinker first, a surprising poetic giant, a nerdy 140 to 150 IQ. Being strong and smart was awesome. Obviously it felt like being kindly recognized and your best theoretical version today. The tower thus strongest nerd. If someone insults your triceps, you insult them intellectually. If someone insults your nerdy hobby, you energetically throw them out of the window into the garbage disposal, hairy legs sticking up. Sometimes he was a gentle, fascinated, patient, observing, unattractive person, seems related to strength. Being fascinated by color combination moths, tear-jerking shimmering red dawns, women and the human condition. Some mistook it for complacency and insensitivity, showing nothing, but he could very actionable and emotional when it was finally time to act. He had a conservative energy and reservation sometimes, but believed in left ideas, now being convinced by monologuing people, although giving everything a chance. Maybe he showed a less conservative side when speaking. He had a brown pet 1.2 meters continental giant rabbit that ate vegetables for him at £100 a month, called Sigmund the Destroyer. James was ready to travel to Arkspire. He would adore a culture such as the dwarves, he thought, like he liked visiting Paris or Madrid. Well, he was going to teleport. He was rich. Rich of rivers of gold like gold rush connoisseurs. The potion was golden and had a dwarf king on the lid. Smash. He exited a ring of osmium, onyx and opal. Interesting. He saw a dwarf army. They were sons of Magellan. They had thick plates of 4 times 8 centimeters small plates chained together over a chainmail. Bendy chainmail on the arms, gold and iron signated helmets, short girthy warhammers. They were riding on giant pot-belly pigs, black and grey. Their bellies were a centimeter off the ground. High cholesterol and cancer risk just like their food, but they didn't live to be 150 like the dwarves. Others had pikes riding on bears with golden horns and somewhat golden round shields. The animals jumped around obediently. What is your business here? Shopping. Don't go near the hearth of melting hearth melt. I don't know where it is. Don't worry, it's in a restricted area. James scratched his head, walking a little bit as they rode on. He did not come to aspire, but downwards. A giant dwarven architectured hole, they had mined and delved over 3,000 years. The city was partly built to the walls, into the walls of levels, underground, and then they delved even more deeper. 100,000 lived in the deep and dank, feeding the cave beasts and ignoring the sun, its promise of serotonin. James went down giant stairs winding left, right, left a bit off the wall. A lava stream lit the walls underfoot. Already there were corridors into the walls. Buildings stood out partly, with symbols golden, large and rectangular, plateaus as well. As far as he could see in this 3,000 diameter by 750 meter deep perfect hole, there were pristine houses, halls of spear, bears, throwing dwarf weaponry, berserkers, fire elemental dragons, sulphurous dragons, half-dragon half-lizards, super-armored titanium dragons that spewed lava burning over time, runekeepers, dwarves made and crushed runes for their powers in combat, and thanes. Halls of drinking before and after battle. Some hops grew next to distilleries even without the sun. There was dwarven beer and spirit of every kind. The famous names had their factories here, large and small competitive delicacy. Innate double liver bomb, Valhalla's 106, Dungeon Master's Draft, Dragon Breath Whiskey Purple and Auburn. Ogre's Foot, Scottish Cayenne Espresso. It has whiskey, short stack lager and the girthy gargantuan. James passed many opportunities to drink. Eventually he settled in a place hunched over, watching a small street drinking that was a very barley heavy and dark ale. Dwarf Guinness, Greasy Jaundice's barbecue joint and contemporary bar was white, dark gold and brown. It looked not too far from Japanese, at least there wasn't anything closer. He was defeated analyzing his surrounding dwarves. They had proper smitheries, melting every ore in double-efficient furnaces, technique that required less coal. Thanes were big and fat, related to dwarves. They were used in battle for their affiliation to air and fire magic, and size. Chain lightning exerted from their weapons, firewalls and immolation in their wake. 2.5 meters tall and 2 meters wide, often shirtless and red-skinned. Spear-wielding berserkers feared no enemy exempt from tricks of the mind, preventing their relentlessness, and with dwarf magic and helmets, they were immune to mind magic. They could go contemporary insane and fought sometimes with brass knuckles, katas. Runekeepers used ranged magic like magical cross comets, reduced their fire resistance, rune words as additional spells, fireball, deadly, and used conjuration magic. They summoned fire elementals. They had mechanical artillery dwarves more than bow and arrow, lots of siege weapons, firing giant crossbows which only downside was the aim, scorpions, small trebuchets and fiery siege catapults for enemies not forts. Dwarf King headed rams, there were wall-climbing siege towers and explosive traps. Moving wood animals filled with TNT, chemistry and fire, time. The bottom of the stairs felt like elevating the ground. He saw opulent detailed grey and gold roads with more Japanese-looking gates. They had prospered from the wealth of the land. Luxurious capital was fortuitous. Lots of shops for dwarven craft and tourists. Small weapons or two-handed, arbalist. He went through wells that spiritually told of huge toad monsters and many craftsmen and armorers looking his way happily after customers for a few seconds. In the middle of the giant Chinese-looking dwarven square was a teleport hub, lodestone and 6 bending spires into a lowering of elevation. It looked melted and frozen. Wizards and elves and cosmopolitan dwarves teleported thus. Maybe it was not for outsiders like him. Stranger hospitality is never 100% like friends. But it can be easy to become one with the elusive Vikings or Valkyries or dwarves. People look for a kind of belonging and loyalty, sometimes without difficult testing. But it's the kind of loyalty that requires little speaking and simple answers, doesn't it? Concerning for a penetrating thinker like James, he would have a different testing. Egregious and conscious of tricks, exerting and thorough. Loyalty done inefficient is auxiliary in thinking, like teenagers' best pop broads boards. Many people had indeed counted James among the loyal, trustworthy and reliable, but he had been leisurely, as a genius waiting for something more complicated and fitting. Loyalty is easy to some and for some, but if you're not honest about the process you might be snuffed out all the same. Loyalty to friends is something more sacred for our character James, in this book. Underground where it was, more luxurious halls, large of gold and grey iron, flat cobblestone, magical lightning roaring like a fissure, a land hidden from tall onlookers. Furnace-looking lightning was actually not furnaces. They made grand gorges. The halls could be 100 times 100 meters large and 50 meters off the ground, most luxury. They had mastered fishing in the cave systems and murk, deep-sea fishing platforms with magical merman harpoons, ballistas shooting heavy considerably ugly fish. There were sailfish of 3 kinds, brown, light blue and white blue, fastest in the waters, delicious murk turtles, cavefish pale but not fat, nutritious and cheap. They had temples mostly golden or entire religious houses made of gold, or combinations of other precious resources, mined not far away. The richest dwarves lived in a gated community which James thought was concerning and offensive. Politically he thought, was he not fine enough to live in a gated community like them? I guess riches make you more fine. As a bodybuilder giant like Ronnie Peanut Coleman James bent curious heads, barely fitting or crouching in their scented capital. It seemed half of the time the architecture was big enough for other races, but at least he could be black as Vanta Black, elves for example.
Should I say stuff like, okay, so it's gone back in time 1,000 years by threatening to blow up an alien. I want to be in a time where there is every duel can be win just a bullet, and yeah, there you go, you know. Anything else? He learns magic.
As a bodybuilder giant like Ronnie Peanut Coleman James bent curious heads, barely fitting or crouching in their scented capital. It seemed half of the time the architecture was big enough for other races, but at least he could be black as Vanta Black. Elves, for example, were commonly assholes against dwarves. Ronnie Coleman made James think insane thoughts, like getting up to eat during the night, say lightweight to peanut-sized 400-kilogram squats, and that's heavyweight. Consequently, it made perfect sense. A small-town cop like him with genetics so good he won professional bodybuilding competitions without steroids was one of James' idols. He connected mind and body, lightweight and peanut. Leg pressing 650 kilograms, James could only do a few times actually. Now there was a way of steroids and human monster without the consequences. Time to become limitless. He would live to be big, as biceps and personality. To a clerk where the miners and smithers clock into work, he asked for Albert the Starsmith. They said at the end of the Hellforge Auburn 7 and Sky searching. James went through the mining district. It was white sleek steel around light green rooftops. They had small pits of mithril, coal, adamant, and gold. Dragonbane rocks 50% black, abyss black and white emerald. Excellent weapons against vampires too, gemstones containing purple sapphire, ruby even dragon crystal, something they exported to elves so they could make crystal potions and triple potion flasks ridiculously advanced. Like a drinking horn replenishing mana that never could be fully drunk as long as there were seas. There were walls of sandstone, clay and granite, dwarves mined on ropes and stairs made in the material, or they had small carts hanging on ropes that were fit for elevating. To warn miners of toxic air that went through the mines in pockets in the season, they had not small songbirds but the giant yellow almost golden pigeon. Dwarves could ride it although they were shuffled off in it. They enjoyed the deep deeply over the white steel slopes. Things turned pretty damp and more dangerous in the unspoken deep, so thoroughly truly in there you found dinosaur-like creatures breathing fire and acid, like the headbutt hunk smashing its head, though pretty much no aggravation, related to goats or the presumptuous Pasape. Your mind weakened as greed filled the insane membrane, with pressure in the skull and your best sanity timer. They would go deeper, and still try but insanity test the confident like sin. Flowing gold, silver and platina had been found, flowing through thick. They flowed from deposit to deposit, only a few active unless collected. Routinely the dwarves switch from deposit and deposit. They have found black stone and granite golems getting upset and smashing if you mind. They looked like they had valuables deep in them, but it was just a trick. 5 sizes of intelligence and mountain magic. The combat granite golem was thoroughly, piercingly punching but did not fit always in the tunnels and crevices then dwarves mined. The dwarves skillfully mostly avoided them, dodging like they got paid for it even if they could fight. Spiritual foxes could be seen entering and exiting small crevices. Aliens, some said the dwarves. He chugged his steroid potion and algaes and continued on to the wilderness mine, a coal, charcoal and onyx history. It was the lowest paid, lowest ranked mine, requiring the least skill and dwarf blood. He saw some lowly black elves and clay-coloured black-eared imps serving their prison sentence thus. At the end of giant forges with 6 anvils in a circle and 6 holes into the furnace, walls somewhat dividing them, he saw Albert. He was balding with a 5-knotted silver beard wide down to his belt. The 5 knots went into silver bracelets. His face looked like that of a barbarian and a Napoleon-like leader. Greetings, Master Dwarf. Greetings, Black Tower in the chessboard of triceps and steroids. I know your cousin Arnold. I'm the pretty one, and smart one, and I have a better beard. He's got a good reputation in London now, with an elf apprentice. It must be the elf who is a genius. My cousin can make some good armor, but he never understood the finer crafts, like a race car driver fully understanding physics ACHHW. I want the best gear possible. I want to make an order. I can pay 15% more for haste and maybe a dwarf telling me about this deepness. It's £4,000 per piece and weapon. You meant Fateweave shooting Maestar armor. I can make 100 orders. I ransacked the dragon's nest before the mithril dragons spit their flame. All right, mate, I can be your smith and paid guide. Feels like I want to say I'm not greedy, though. I do this for the craft mostly, consistent salary and history. Gold and arrogance has its limitations. Its power can't transcend and you keep nothing when you die. I want this 3 meters katana reinforced shooting star, full plate armor minus 1 arm, morning star, 2 daggers, double AXE like an S on one side, pole arms looking like this one I'm carrying. Some throwing axes. I have a shooting star double AXE lying around waiting to be bought. It increases your magic like a conduit. Same price as a regular one, expensive. I dwarf. Consider it's done already, Black Knight. What's a little hammering? I'll get on it. What's the clothing you have there? Excellent light armor, carbon fiber, an armor of the future. Can I have some? Maybe I should study it. It's about the connections of coal to coal at a very small level. Diamond has the most. There you go. He looked genius and interested with this crafting treasure. You should grow a beard so people don't think you're a woman. Maybe a handlebar moustache. Learn some fire magic from the Thanes while you wait here. They don't feel listened to here and respect giant humans. He went through massive halls, tall for roof, far from all things inside, horizontal bridges over horizontal bridges leading into more glorious halls of different elevations. He went through giant kingly forges that looked like it would be operated by giants. There were basements of basements with treasure. The closest thing was the dragon's treasure room. At the Thane quarters, which were fire and elemental lightning, there was a teal and lightning glowing spectre 20 diameter times 80 with circular teal stairs most.
You write down a thing.
At the Thane quarters, which were fire and elemental lightning, there was a teal and lightning glowing spectre 20 diameter times 80 with circular teal stairs most merry way. Then they cut off. You had to swing with a chain or grapple across to ascend high levels several times. What's up, Biggie Small Thanes? What's up, Muscle Balloon? A fire Thane with a burning hand said with an impossibly deep voice. The stairs lead to nothing. What's the point of that? He pointed. They're stairs of ascension. They tell you about evolving and clues to the next step. You can't comprehend to get further than you can. It's about not lingering with mistakes your heart regrets, I think. At the top there is turning into energy. It's not naught. My brain tickles and is elevated as I purify my past selves mistakes of 1,000 generations samurai. Negative moral stubbornness keeps us still because ascension is about understanding emotion in the set of strengths, experiences and shortcomings we are born with. Not much being the most clever scientist, performance and fame. Understand and accept how the circumstances are fine, in your place. Be a good enough person to match the transcendence energy. Figure it out before you die, Mr. Muscle. Not necessary the toilet cleanser. Fate is something based in concrete birth predisposition, I say as well. Enough strength, brains carves the unusual way of fate. Like zigzagging through danger. If you munger your brain and biceps, you can alter your fate. Why don't you feel listened to, Thanes? Our culture is thus, peace in lack of war, art and culture in dwarf holes, disrespected as brutal by elves and barbarians, but we are no more killing than humans or savage as omnivores. Who are we to care for when we bludgeon and languish? There is war every time peace fails. There is cunning, courting, brain and brawn, thus. Atrocities fit in war, we can't control everything. You want us on your side through as diplomacy fails. The diplomacy climate is sour half the time anyway. I want to learn your special magic. We teach thunder magic as well. You like us thus, so no charge this time, Jim Human. At the Thanes shooting range there were furnaces making rock glow and anvils, a very furnace feeling overall. Like inside a short-tempered volcano. The Fire Thanes had white ponytails and wizard beards. The Thunder Thanes had shorter beards, blonde and light blue glowing eyes like smoking teal.
You know, I'm not feeling too energized. I don't think I want to stream actually. Yeah, put some of this book into one of my YouTube videos though, maybe. If you want to, that's the problem. Watch some other YouTube videos I made. Thank you, goodbye. Baguette out, baguette in.